1935, a 25-year-old called Grace bought free shares in the company that she worked as a secretary at called Abbott. And these were $60 per share. So that day, Grace invested $180 into the stock market. She then continued just to go about her life, living pretty frugally, and she just carried on working at the same company for the next 43 years. $180 at that time would have been a pretty substantial amount, but she did continue to reinvest any dividends she got over and over again. She then continued to do this for 75 years until she passed away in 2010, when she had $7.2 million. She managed to turn a really small amount into millions and millions of dollars, and that is because of the power of compound interest, reinvesting the dividends, and also the increase in stock price. Even though Grace Groner is a known example of an everyday person who managed to become a millionaire from stock investing, a perhaps more famous example is Warren Buffett. He has amounted a massive fortune of around $100 billion, and this all started when he bought his first share of City Service at age 11 for $38 a share. And he's been consistently investing in the stock market ever since, again letting the power of compound interest and time take effect. Even though we all now know him no other way, Warren Buffett has not always been a millionaire or a billionaire, and this definitely didn't happen overnight. We see these great examples of people, everyday people, that have become more than rich just by investing in the stock market. But even with these great examples out there, we still have this problem where over 50% of Americans and 85% of Brits are still not investing in the stock market. This means that millions and millions of people are missing out on the chance to become financially independent. There are other ways out there to become financially independent, as we know, but the stock market is a great example. Those that do actually start investing often don't begin until they're older. In fact, just 39% of adults who are saving towards retirement started in their 20s. The majority of people are starting in their 30s. Investing is better than not investing, and starting later in life is better than not starting at all. Let's take a look at how much you should have invested by each age. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. But the second best time is now. This is a Chinese proverb, but it holds true when we think about investing. The longer that you can hold your investments, the more valuable they tend to become. This is why the best time to start investing was the day that you were born, or actually even before you were born. Although parents can open ISAs for their children and start investing for them, or the equivalent in other countries, as far as I'm aware, in most places you have to be 18 years old or older to actually be able to invest for yourself. According to many studies and pieces of research, delaying your investments by even just 1 year can significantly change your returns. For example, a person investing £100 per month into the stock market starting at age 23 could have a pot of money worth around £537,868 by the age of 65. But the same pot of money would only be worth £491,401 if that person delayed starting by just 1 year. And this is based on historical nominal stock returns of 9.2% per year. Another example of the crazy potential starting early has is that if someone had invested $1 for you per day from the day that you were born, that would have grown to $13,000 by the time you turned 18, assuming a 7% annual return. And even if you never add another single dollar to this amount could grow to $410,000 by the time you want to retire. And this just reiterates that good old saying of time in the market is way more important than trying to time the market. And it demonstrates the fact that you can invest a small amount over a long period of time, and this can actually be more significant than investing a lot of money over a shorter period of time. But don't be put off if you didn't start investing at a young age, because you can still reap the rewards. To talk about how much people think you should have saved and invested at each age, we need to talk about net worth. Notice how I said how much people think. This is because this is just a guide and it's not to be taken as absolute. And if you're way off these figures, seriously, don't worry. Anyway, back to the net worth. This term means the complete wealth that you have, taking into account any assets and liabilities. To calculate, you simply take your assets, so the things that you own, like your cars, your property, and any savings that you have, and then you minus any liabilities. So these are the things that you owe, like mortgage payments and debt, and this will leave you with your net worth. This number can be pretty scary, but even if you're aged 25 and you have a net worth of 0, you're still doing really well. Because here in the UK, 40% of people between the ages of 22 and 29 have 0 savings, and they actually have a negative net worth. And another statistic that I looked at told me that the median net worth of 25 to 29-year-olds is actually minus £100. When you're looking at these sort of statistics, it's really important that you instead focus on the median rather than the average, because this way you avoid those impact from the extremes. As you can see, the median net worth for someone below the age of 25 is really small. And this is because at this point in your life, you're probably not yet established in a career, or maybe you're even still studying. And you're most likely not earning enough to even save, let alone invest. The important thing here at this point in your life is to make sure that you don't get yourself into lots of unnecessary debt. I'm not so much talking about student loans, here in the UK anyway. I know that it's probably a different case for repayment over in the US, but I'm more talking about car loans or phone contracts, just things like that you can't really afford. And the other important thing here is to focus on paying off debt if you do have any. This way, any money that you do actually have can be saved and invested. If you're even investing in your early 20s at all, whether this is £100 a year or £100 a month, you're doing really, really well. Much better than the average person. So give yourself a pat on the back and your future self can thank you in years to come. Moving on to the later years of your 20s, it's likely that during this period you're pretty free in terms of financial responsibilities. Of course, this is generalizing and it is subjective, but hey, we have to do this sort of thing for this type of video. During these years, it's likely that you're earning more than you were in your early 20s. So of course, this means that you can invest more. And you may still live with your parents, which is even better in terms of reducing your outgoings. The table I showed you earlier and the statistics that we looked at didn't include everything that you would need to think about when you're actually trying to establish your wealth. For example, it didn't take into account property. So let's now look at some figures from the Office of National Statistics in 2018. And we'll look at the median net worth, and this will include all of the components that need to be thought about when thinking about net worth. As you can see, when you look at your late 20s and early 30s, the median net worth is around £67,000. If you then look a little bit more deep into this, you can see that this is made up of physical possessions, pension, and valuables. When you start moving through your 30s into your early 40s, you can see that the net worth really jumps up. And this is often due to starting to own some property maybe, or just getting a higher earning power at work through experience. Also at this stage, you have the impact of the compounding that's starting to happen on your personal investments and your pension contributions. I won't go through each and every age, but you can see one thing here, and that is that most people max out at age 60 in terms of their net worth. The more money you have, the more money you can invest. And it's clear that the typical person in their 20s and 30s, they don't really have too much spare money that they can actually invest, but this tends to then change as you move through your 30s. Here are the average UK savings by age. I know that we can't say that these figures are exactly how much people have invested, because of course, some people may just have this amount of money sitting in their bank, but it does give us an idea. If you want to know if you fall outside of the typical person, then this is how much savings you would need to fall in the top 25% and the top 10%. Another way to think about how much is a good amount to have saved by particular ages is to look at it from a salary point of view. Of course, if you say that you should have 17,000 invested by age 28, for some people that's really easy, and for others it's really, really unrealistic. It depends on your income, but also it depends on whether your parents invested anything for you, or perhaps even getting left some inheritance. But by looking at it from a salary point only, it removes all those factors. According to this, you should look to have at least half of the annual salary that you make by age 30 in savings. I'm using the words savings and investments kind of interchangeably here, but if you're on a salary of £30,000 per year, then the goal would be to have £15,000 in savings/investments by the age of 30. By the age of 35, according to this, you should have at least 1 times to 1.5 times of your annual salary in savings or investments, and so on. The numbers I've shared in this video are just an idea, and if anything, a motivating factor to keep you striving towards financial independence.